creative friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing amazing because I feel pretty amazing today. The sun is finally shining and it's finally spring here in Munich after ages of snow and rain. So yeah, I hope you're doing amazing and you're feeling amazing, and today I want to make macrame bags because the original plan was several months ago when I was deep down into a rabbit hole of crocheting. The plan was to crochet bags and tops and bikinis and basically everything in my life. Status quo is I crocheted pot holders so far, and I don't know. I think I have a long way to go when it comes to crocheting. So I thought that macrame, and side note, I've never macramed anything in my life before, but I think maybe it's a bit easier and not as time consuming as crocheting is. And shout out to all the amazing, talented people out there that are crocheting like the most stunning bags and pieces of clothes. I admire you so much. And but this is not a crocheting tutorial, this is a macrame tutorial, and I don't know if you can learn something from me, but if you also never macrame before, maybe you can learn one or two things. If you're a more advanced macrame if you're more advanced with the techniques of macrame, you probably won't learn that much today. But yeah, so far I'd say let's jump into the video and I'll talk to you soon.
For this project you'll need 3mm thick macrame cotton cord, optional handles, a measuring tape, scissors, and optional also a glue gun. So I guess if you're a beginner, these two bags I'm making in this video are perfect because you only need to know one knot for this. And this is the square knot. And in the following mini tutorial, and please feel free to repeat this as many times as you like, I will be quickly showing you how you can make a square knot. The first thing I did was I took the measurement for my handles, and for me this was 66 centimeters. And after that I took the center point of my strands and I measured half of my 66 centimeters, which is 23 centimeters. And I marked the spot, and after that I braided 66 centimeter handles. Since I'm working here with 2 bundles of strands and one bundle consists of 16 2.5 meter strands, the exact measurements I will put down in the description box. I used a 4-strand braid, and you do a 4-strand braid by either taking the left over the right strand and the left over the right and then the right over the left, or you take first right over left and then left over right. This sounds probably confusing, so I will stop talking now and I will just let you have a closer look on what I did here. But I promise you it's really not that complicated in real life. So in between I went in with my measuring tape to see if the length is correct, and after that I finished my braid and secured it with a piece of strand. And you do this by looping the strand and leaving the end on the top, as you can see here, and then you wrap the other end around several times until you're satisfied and everything seems pretty secure, as you can see here. And when you're done, you take your strand and put it through the loop, and then you take your upper strand and pull it tight. And after you're done, you can just cut off the excess and you repeat the same on the other side. And of course, you repeat the whole braiding process with your other section of strands. And then you can start your first row of square knots. And for that, since we are working here with 16 strands in total, and you want to make 3 square knots, you want to put 2 strands from the left and 2 strands from the right aside. And yeah, just start your square knots as you can see here. And then you can start your second row of square knots, and for that you want to make alternating square knots, which means that you are first of all taking the outer strands you put aside earlier and make a square knot with the 2 strands from the left or the right and 2 strands from your first knot of your first row, as you can see here. And after that you continue on to make alternating square knots, and now you take 2 strands from the first knot of the first row and 2 strands from the second knot of the first row, and so on and so on. For the third row of square knots, you again want to take both outer strands from the left and the right and put them aside, and you just again make alternating square knots until you finish the row. And this is what you got after that. You have in total 3 rows of square knots, 1, 2, 3. And then you just start to repeat the process on your other section of strands. this is really repetitive. The only thing you want to make sure of is that the distances between the rows of knots are pretty much the same, so that you can now connect your two parts, your two sections. Woo, exciting! I was excited. And you do this just by making an alternating square knot with the two outer strands you left aside when you knotted your third row. And this is it. This is how you connect your two sections. And after that, you create your fourth row of knots, and for that you count 2 rows and you take the outer strands of your second row of knots aside and you begin to make alternating square knots. At this point your bag should look like this. 4 rows in total and 4 strands in total on both sides. You can use later to connect your other half of your bag. And yes, so this is what we're doing here. So hopefully you repeated the whole process on the other side so that you can now connect your both sides. And this is again just like you connected your first 2 pieces. You make alternating square knots using your 3 strands you left untouched in the first place, as you can see here, and you just connect them. And then you fill in your 4th row of square knots, and yeah, by doing alternating square knots. And this, my friends, is basically the hardest part of this whole process. And after that, you just go in, take your time, listen to some good music, and you fill in the entire bag, row by row, just making alternating square knots until you're happy with the size of your bag. And yeah, this is it. And to finish off your bag, you of course have to close the bottom of your bag. And for that, you take your handles and you put them over your shoulder just like you would wear your bag. And now you have the direction in which you have to double knot the leftover strands of your bag. And to do that, you put knot over knot, so the last row of knots you put over each other. So the back and the front, and you take 2 strands from each knot and make a double knot. So in the end you are left with 1 big knot consisting of 2 double knots. And after that I cut off the excess, and I know that people finish off their knots with a hot glue gun or another type of glue, just to make everything super secure. But I have to say that I didn't like the result at all, because you put your bag inside out so that you hide these bulky knots on the bottom of your bag. But I figured that you were still able to see the knots from the inside, especially after you finished them with a hot glue gun, and yeah, it wasn't a cute finish. So I left this bag untouched. And now onto the other bag. For the second bag, I used wooden handles and 20 strands of macrame cord in total for each handle. And again, I will put all the measurements in the description box. And to connect my strands to my handles, I used 2 strands, found the center point and created a loop around the handle and pulled it tight so that you are left with something that looks like this. And to make this bag, you begin basically the same way as you would begin the other bag. So you put 2 strands from each side aside and you start making your square knots. And for the second row of square knots, you want to spare again 2 strands from each side. And after that, you connect your 4 loose strands and make a square knot and fill in the second row of knots. After that, you again put 2 strands aside from each side and make again alternating square knots and create your second row. And after that, your bag should look like this, or at least one half of your bag, so that you can now go in and create the second part of your bag. And this is basically just repeating the entire process. And as I did for the first bag, I again here connected my 2 sides by filling in the third row by making a square knot in the middle. And of course I repeated this on the other side, and after that I made 3 more rows of square knots all around the bag, and after that I finished the bag the same way I did my first bag, by knotting the last row of knots together. And this is it, my friends. This is my macrame bag tutorial. I hope you liked it, and yes, I talk to you soon.